Being friendly with some people is super easy, barely an inconvenience, but we all know those colleagues, customers and neighbors that we just can't get a connection with. Even thinking of talking to them makes us shiver. If this is someone you have to deal with a lot of the time, you will likely want all the help you can get to make the whole experience less teeth-clenchingly awkward.
Anything for my princess!
Luckily, there's a whole field of study on a frenzy for finding friendship facilitating factors. And over the years, they have come up with all sorts of rapport building tools and tricks. In this video, we will look at some of the most effective things you can do to make a connection with anybody. Now, there are a lot of somewhat obvious problems with using clever techniques and schemes to improve your friendship and connection with the people around you. We will look at some of those drawbacks in this video and more in other videos on this channel. But for now, let's dive headfirst into the wondrous world of friendship building, connection improving techniques of general niceness. I'm Jasper, Geluk, an ex-NLP trainer, and this is Personal Development Explained. Friendship building largely goes via an unconscious process that often plays out during the small talk phase of a conversation. If you're not aware of these patterns, you usually just either feel or not feel a connection with someone within minutes of meeting them. The connection, or lack thereof, usually only strengthens as you communicate with a person more and more. But the actual cues your unconscious takes are easily identifiable, and some are way more primitive than most people would like to acknowledge. All these subconscious cues are linked to one core principle. We like and trust people that resemble ourselves or how we would want to be. And this makes a lot of sense. If you look at your values and beliefs, for instance, they're important to you. So if you meet someone that values and believes the same things, of course you'll be more likely to trust and befriend them. Similarly, for meeting someone that's even more of how you would like to be, since they are closer to whatever ideal version of you would be, you often feel like kindred spirits and might hope they will motivate you to do more yoga classes, eat healthier and start your own business. But how do you know within minutes of meeting them that someone has the same values and beliefs as you? Evolution has handed us some rather rudimentary shortcuts. How do we subconsciously detect the people we like? Well, on the surface it appears like this. We look at someone, listen to them speak and the way they talk, and we get a feeling of liking or not liking them. Since you are most likely a human that has met other humans before, you have already experienced this for yourself. But you may not have been aware of the underlying cues that you pick up on subconsciously that drive your feeling of either liking or not liking someone. In our interactions, we send these cues both consciously and subconsciously to each other. Leaning into these cues and subtly showing them to someone as you communicate will open them up, and they will find themselves being more comfortable with you as a result. There are three main categories of cues: body language, intonation and structure. Let's begin with body language. The most blatant way our bodies tell someone we like them is by exactly mirroring their posture. This is a very natural phenomenon that usually happens in small steps throughout a conversation, ending up with two people having an exact mirror image in body language. Just start looking for this pattern in the real world and you'll be amazed how many friends sit, walk or stand exactly alike. This fascinating bit of human behavior has, however, sadly, been severely misunderstood and warped into techniques that have been wrongly perpetuated in sales trainings, NLP courses and self-help seminars for decades. The instructors will often heavily encourage you to force yourself and always exactly mirror the person you're talking to. They make their participants preoccupied with copying the other person's body language into the extreme, not noticing whether it's appropriate or not. They seem to confuse the goal, getting a connection, with the technique, sending cues. This can lead to some strange situations, as the HR director for a large Dutch company once told me. He always hated doing job interviews with people that went to such trainings. He would spot it within minutes since they were blatantly copying his every move. He often liked to see how far they would go by taking increasingly weirder postures himself. Most applicants quickly figured out they got caught, but he told me some just kept on going, clinging to what they were trained to do. So, don't use these techniques to make a fool out of yourself. Once more, the goal is to give a subtle, I say again, subtle cue to the other person that you are friendly and willing to connect. Now, if you shouldn't deliberately copy their entire body language, what are some of the more subtle things you can do? One of the main cues I used to teach is taking over the essence of someone's body language. Broadly, you can imagine someone that's either super active or super relaxed. It's easy to see how you would not make a connection by doing the opposite of what they're doing. If they're relaxed, you would take over the same ease in your own body language and the other way around. This also works on a much smaller scale. When you're, for instance, sitting with a friend and they shift their position or stand up, you may find yourself also moving. Maybe it's your leg or maybe it's just a hand movement. Another body language cue is giving back the exact same gesture, but at a later time. If someone, for instance, makes a certain gesture when they think of something, you can make the same gesture when you think of something later on. Now again, it's important to understand that these cues work two ways. You can give them intentionally to build up a connection, but at the same time, if the connection is already there, they'll be given unintentionally as well by your subconscious. For now, let's get into the second category of cues, your intonation. There are three main intonational distinctions, which are tone, tempo, and volume. And you'll find that matching tone, tempo, and volume builds more connection than going opposite. Just imagine someone with a super low, slow, and quiet voice. They will likely not be impressed by someone that's super loud, fast talking, and high pitched. Since your intonation is certainly something you can control, it helps to adjust this to the person you're talking to. It's very possible you already automatically do this, but being aware of it might help you to get even better at building these connections. The last category of cues is the structure of what you're saying. People all have different ways of making sense of the world around them, and we're all naturally more drawn to people that think in similar ways to us. How you think is revealed in how you structure your thoughts into the things you say. The first structure cue is therefore quite straightforward. Use the same words they do. This is very literal. Words have meanings for people. Going on holiday, vacation, a trip, or travel all have different meanings to different people. If you insist on calling something a holiday while they are looking for someone to travel with, it may feel as if you're talking about something else. So making an effort and listening to the exact words they use and also using those words can make a big difference. A more roundabout way of achieving this is the second structure cue, which is using the same vocabulary. Some people might use a lot of sports metaphors, others may use long or elongated words, and some people force memes into everything in order to seem like they know what is hip with the kids these days. Using the general same way of talking can increase your connection to someone. Mind you, this doesn't mean copying someone's accent. If it's not your natural accent, you'll most likely not pull it off and end up with something inappropriate and insulting.
Try my cookie cookie. Try my cookie cookie. Try my...
Lastly, there's matching their personality type. There's some major drawbacks to using this cue too extremely, but there's also some big upsides. Most people are effectively blind at spotting this, which means you can achieve a lot without them noticing it. This makes it an excellent cue to use with those people you're truly having a hard time connecting with. The huge drawback is that you may to a certain extent let go of your own personality preferences. This may, for a variety of reasons, be undesirable. One of which is that your personality might actually have something important to add to the conversation. But for now, so you do have these cues as a tool, here are some of the concrete personality traits to look for and possibly match. Firstly, people have different preferences for either focusing on details or looking at the bigger picture. When two people who are at the extreme ends of this spectrum meet, they often do a great job of annoying the heck out of each other. One feels getting bogged down in details, while the other feels they are careless and not taken serious. Similarly, there are people that constantly try to find new and better ways of doing things, while others like to focus more on following the best process and rules. Two people that differ largely at this are bound to have some massive arguments at some point. Then there are those that generally agree with things and give notes later, and those that generally disagree but may later give in. Being conflict averse usually means you will quickly agree with people. And you will likely not enjoy being around people that always point out the exception to the rule. Now, these are obviously not the only personality distinctions you can use to match with someone. Feel free to use any of the Myers-Briggs, DISC and Belbin personality tests out there. Just make sure you're also aware of their plentiful shortcomings. Mainly make sure you don't fall into the trap of judging a book by its cover. To summarize this last part, if you have a really hard time connecting with someone, it may be that your personality preferences are too far removed from theirs. This is something you can purposefully change, and it will improve the connection when you do. The cost may, however, be large, since you likely may be foregoing your own preferences. But given enough self-control, taking some time in their preferences can really help you understand them better and improve the connection as a result. Walk a mile in their shoes sort of thing. And now for something completely different. Why do people keep using the word rapport? If you really want to sound fancy whilst talking about friendship, you don't say feeling a connection to someone. No, you call it rapport.
Yes, you call it rapport, which is French and also means connection, but in French.
And it seems like all the pros are doing it to sound smart.
You must be in rapport.
In rapport. Rapport.
Rapport.
Rapport.
Rapport.
Rapport.
Or as we in customer service call it, rapport.
So if you're eager to impress, just substitute the word connection with rapport and you're good to go. Back to you, Jasper. Thank you, Jasper. So, in order to build a connection or build rapport, you should give subtle subconscious cues with your body language, intonation and structure. Telling the other person, I'm like you, and I am open for a connection with you. But using a technique like this in a real social setting can be awkward as hell. At first, it's very likely that you may be a little weird with your new techniques, just like you weren't the best driver just after getting your driver's license. So practice these techniques, and any communication techniques for that matter, in low-stakes situations at first. Like the supermarket, public transport, or the queue for the cinema. And as you practice with them more often, some of it will become second nature. You will automatically match the essence of their body language, general intonation, and some of their structure. And if you do find yourself in a situation where you need to bring out the big guns and go all out, you will hopefully already have practiced that as well, so you don't add making a fool out of yourself to the list of things to worry about in that situation.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I hope this video was helpful to you. The essence of connection building is really simple, but practicing it makes all the difference. Back in 2018, when I was still giving a lot of training myself, I made a short video about rapport building with my friend Munir from Abu Dhabi. Feel free to check that out if this topic interests you. Also, rewatching this video again may help you get a stronger grasp on the do's and don'ts of this technique. Thank you for watching. You can ask your questions in the comments below and consider subscribing if you like this video. See you in the next one.